I'm gonna hit the button then.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Here we are live on this Friday. My name is Jordan. With you, as always, it's 2Js at night for another episode number 4. Welcome, everybody. And with me is Jeremy, as always. Welcome, Jeremy.
Howdy, howdy. Good evening. How's it going?
Doing very well. We are gearing up, getting busy here in Maine.
Oh, yeah?
Snow is actually, we've had some nice sunny days, so the snow is really starting to melt away in places where, it's exposed to the sun for the full day and
Yeah.
allowing a lot more to be done in the farm area. So,
Oh, yeah. Right. Very cool. So are you getting ready to, I know you had a greenhouse to set up. Are you fixing to erect that here in the very near future?
you got it.
Nice.
Actually, something I was really excited for. I think that this past week I was on the farm and, the garden was starting to show, but the ground was still frozen pretty solid. So I was like,
Yeah.
really drive rebar into that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And
Right. Yeah.
I've
well, go ahead.
I was gonna say I had thought of putting down like a tarp or something like that. I just don't have them right now to be able to do that. So I know that's a solution, that could expedite the warming of the soil and kind of the melting of the snow.
Yeah. Or even some black plastic if you could find some black plastic somewhere.
That's true.
That would probably work. I would think that driving the rebar into the ground is probably one of the closer to the end parts of the building process of those things.
It's actually number one, first step.
Really?
Kind of piecing together the bows. There's a section that curves, and then these again are Gothic style, so they have sort of a peak.
Mm-hmm.
You would attach the peak portion to the two sides for the bow, and then there's some other pieces that like I could spend some time, kind of get preparing and getting ready to put up. But what they have you do, at least in the like instruction manual, is first get your alignment and setting driving the rebar in, because that's what you slide the posts,
Mm.
your bows, or what they're called, the individual ribs.
Okay.
Set those all up, and so I've got 10 of those that I need to set up, and then I have all these cross bracing that helps just to kind of give it some more rigidity, and some bracing that'll go actually from bow to bow on the two sides.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it's probably very similar to the one that Owen Benjamin has set up, which he built, with the help of some folks. But yeah, that's an interesting endeavor, and I just would have thought that the rebar would be towards the end, because when you're building so many small things, they're always like, don't tighten until the end or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
To me, like driving the rebar into the ground would be like the tightening, the finality, but I guess not. I guess you kind of want to get it good and anchored and stable before you really start embarking on the rest of it. But
getting things sort of aligned up too, so that when you go to put your plastic on, everything is as straight as possible, and you don't have things all kind of wonky.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Huh.
Well, so that's cool. I'm hoping to be able to do that next week, because the whole weekend is some, like, the daytime temperatures are up in the 60s actually.
Yeah.
Nice sunny days.
I think you're still going to be a little surprised with how slow the ground thaws out. I don't know. We'll see. How deep do you have to drive the rebar?
I think it's about a foot.
Whoo, doggy.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be surprised how long it takes to ground the thaw a foot. I mean, I'm rooting for you, obviously, but I don't know. I have a feeling if you go in there next week with the sledgehammer and some rebar, make sure you're holding onto that sledgehammer tight.
Well, we'll be testing things out. I'm not going to be trying to push through permafrost.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. No, very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I'll be looking forward to hearing about that some more for sure. Um, one thing I wanted to touch on. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask before I forget it for sure was it looked like we had some artwork of some kind, or at least an image there. What's the story behind that? Is that something you just found somewhere, or
No, I
together?
just threw it together real quick for as a thumbnail for the video,
Yeah.
link, because
No.
like whenever you share the links, it's just like that weird little TV thing, and as the thumbnail.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just
No, I like it.
yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of what I had in mind as something possibly, and I had sort of also envisioned it maybe even just like as a black and white sort of silhouette, type of logo icon type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it looks great. And I like too that Blue Jays are part of the Corvid family, which were we talking about this recently? I don't know.
I can't recall if we spoke about it on the podcast or not, but
Yeah, I don't know. But the Corvids are very smart. Ravens, crows. What else is in the Corvid family?
Starlings, I believe, and
I'm gonna say starlings, and yeah, I think those are all Corvids too. They've found that some of these birds are able to, what they say, that they can display the rate of intelligence of a 7-year-old child. So they do different things, like they use tools, for example, I guess, for different things. So
as an example, I had heard of a story of a raven pulling, like watching, someone doing ice fishing, and when the person left, and the flag, with ice fishing, you have like a flag that goes up whenever there's a fish on the line. And
yeah,
the raven had been watching and recognized, and came down and pulled the string, pulled the fish up, and had taken the fish off the line.
That's pretty clever. Yeah. Smart birds. Yeah, so that's really cool, man. I dig it. I just threw I have an image of every year we have our own local area Burning Man, a buddy of mine, and so I threw that up as our like, I guess our channel image is what it is. I don't know, but that way it wasn't just like the person silhouette or
the
whatever
NPC.
whatever there was there. Yeah, the NPC. Oh, that's funny. But something else I wanted to update you on was my cat, good old Ash Cat. So finally took him to the vet, and lo and behold, apparently in another scuffle, punctured again. So same thing as last time, shaved bald. They had to drain the infection, antibiotics, the whole 9 yards. But he's doing great. It wasn't as bad as last time because he didn't need to wear the cone of shame this time. So, and the wound's just not nearly as bad. It's already very healed up. So,
is that the one that was in the up by the upper shoulders?
Yeah, it is so close to being like in the exact same spot as last time. Animals really do. All predators really do. They know where to attack, where to go on things that they are hunting, and it seems to be relatively the same area, right behind the shoulders, and in the neck area. Obviously, if they can get to the jugular or something, they'll do that. But yeah, this is this exact same place. You can see the old scars actually from the attack in November or late October, whenever he got attacked initially. We took him
Yeah.
in Thanksgiving, but I mean that was, I think he had been, it had been a couple weeks probably at least since he had been attacked. So, but you can see those scars in the new area that they shaved, the new area that they shaved. He had just grown all that other fur back. I mean, you had just been able to, like, you couldn't tell that he had been shaved at all.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny that he's back to being kind of bald there, but he's doing
Still
all right.
confined to the house as well.
No, no, we let him out.
Okay. Nice.
We were gone last weekend, and so we had tried to keep him in like right after the vet visit, and he like was not having it. He was just being so annoying in the house at night, and so we finally just let him out,
Yeah.
and then he was free to roam while we were gone last weekend. So yeah, yeah. Which last weekend was a real trip. I mean, first off, it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. It was a
I'd
lot
love
of
to
fun.
kind of hear about that a little bit because and I got a little something to mention too. Just that there was you shared a video of a kind of it was a video of the place you were at, and I showed my wife, and she had never heard of like hotels having like water slides in them, or like as like where the hotel is sort of a theme park in itself. And I was like, oh yeah, my class had gone to Cedar Point, and we stayed at Castaway Bay Hotel, which
Okay.
it has like a wave pool in it
Yeah.
and water slides and all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
So what was it that where what kind of a carnival and experience you have there?
So it's just an indoor water park. This one in particular is the Great Wolf Lodge. There's a few of them. They're scattered across the United States. This one in particular is in Sandusky, Ohio. And yeah, it's like the lodge hotel area kind of encompasses the water park, and so you stay in the rooms, and then you can just walk from the rooms
Right.
right to the water park. And there was six slides, six pretty big slides, two of which you had to be on a raft to ride on, and then two.
Those are pretty good usually. The raft.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is designed for younger children.
Oh, okay.
It was it was probably our last time there, honestly.
Gotcha.
But it was the first time that both the boys rode everything. So
Mm,
there was that.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, we keep threatening them that we're never going to go anywhere if they don't ride stuff when we go to these places. Not cheap, not by any stretch of the imagination. This place costs an arm and a leg. Um, and so yeah, so it's cool. It's a lot of fun. It was a little aggravating the first full day. So we got there on Saturday around 1 o'clock. We got in 1:30 ish, and everything was running. It was cool. We partied it up until, I don't know, we ate supper. They have this little lodge right in the water park even that you can go over to, and this little
Oh,
cafe
food.
or whatever, order
Wow.
food from. And so we ordered something from there and ate, and we were there until close to 8 o'clock is when it closes. And got up the next
Burned
morning.
up.
Oh yeah, yeah. And got up the next morning and went and ate breakfast. And then the park was supposed to open at 9:30, something like that. And so we go and it opens, uh, but the big tube slide where you had to ride the inner tube, and one of the big attractions that housed two of the slides is this giant like clubhouse splash zone where it's got a bunch of nets that the kids can climb on. It's got all kinds of waterworks on it. You know, you can dump buckets of water on people down below and, you know, stuff like that. That was not running. So, oh, and the lazy river. They have a lazy river too, which was not running. And it's like, what the? And I mean, this went on for a couple hours, and finally they slowly started opening this other stuff up. That was Sunday, and then we were there Monday morning, and same thing. And we left like 1:30, 2 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and the big centerpiece was still not open on Monday. But it was packed. The place was packed, man. I don't know if it was Stimmy week or, you know, what the deal was, but the place was jumping, yo. But it was so weird because everywhere except for the water park, masks, you know, do the distancing, whatever, all of that. In the water park, though, as soon as you walk through the doors to the water park, off go the mask, and you're free to roam. Except for the employees, the poor employees, man.
Oh no!
People in the water, like walking in the water with a mask on the face, and I'm just like, that's got to be so uncomfortable, and it can't be good. All that chemical getting soaked up in your mask, and you're huffing that shit all day. Oh, like I don't know. But you know, it's weird because there would be people that you would see in the hallway, and they'd be all masked up, and they would be like on the other side of the hall, you know, making sure that you're not getting your contaminated self close to them, and then you'd see them standing, you know, almost rubbing their half naked body against your half naked body in line at the water supply. And you're like, what is going on?
I wonder if it's just an image thing, right? It's like they're whenever in the water park area, everybody else is already at mask off, so they feel okay. But then, you know, the image thing of being seen out of that area with.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think that's definitely part of it. The societal pressure is very great, for sure, because there's always a Karen around. There is always a Karen around. And while we were there, I got yelled at once because we were out in the lobby. They do these like story time things every night, dance parties, stuff like that. So we were out there, and I mean, a lot of people are walking around with the chin masks or just stuff right out off. So I had mine down, and like we were just walking over somewhere for a second from where we were, and I forgot, and one of the staff members, all of a sudden I hear her yelling at me, "You gotta pull your mask up." I'm like, just go away. Why? But yeah, it was just kind of weird, you know, because of that whole situation. It was nice in the water park to see people, see faces, but you know, the rest of it was very awkwardish.
It feels like such a gimmick, then, you know, when it's like.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the whole restaurant thing too, right? Where I walk to the table and then I'm okay, but if I get up and go to the bathroom, I have to put it on. Like.
Yeah. Well, and then while we're there, you know, the overlords, the CDC goes and releases new guidelines. Oh, now it is okay, 3 feet. You know what? We were wrong. 3 feet is cool for social distance.
For real? 3
Yeah.
feet?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense? That less distance.
It's okay now.
You need 2 masks, but 3 feet. It's okay.
2 masks, half the distance.
Is that World Health Organization approved?
If you want to be 3 feet from somebody, you have to have 2 masks on. If not, then if you don't have 2 on, then you have to be 6 feet. Those are the new guidelines.
That's the new guideline. 1 mask per 3 foot distance.
Yeah, exactly. Starting at 6 feet. So if you want to be close on a date, you actually need three masks. That's what actually that's where the term third base originated from. Was the third mask that got you third spot, third base.
That's the only way you could get that close into their personal.
Get you. Yeah, you can get that arm around them then. Oh man, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so interesting times, but overall, I mean, it was fun. The kids had a good time. We had a good time. So
nice.
Yeah, it was a win. It was a win for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, anything been kicking around your skull lately? That you're interested in discussing?
Well,
wanted to discuss?
It's I've really like the farming stuff has really been taking over. We've getting ready specifically to do all the stuff in actually at the farm place. So, I was thinking a little bit about just different things of trying to increase self-reliance, self-sustainability, things like that. And I just had come across another interesting kind of technology that I thought I would share on the podcast. It's a way to move water that requires no electricity.
Oh yeah.
And just uses kind of natural change of elevation in order to build up pressure in a small pressure tank.
Isn't that how they say the Egyptians did it to a large degree?
Oh, they may have. That's a good, yeah. I know that they used a lot of, canaling of the Nile, and they very well could have created, like areas of stored water, and then at times of maybe low water flow or something, they could use it, or even use it to pump and irrigate, further surface area. That would make sense for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
smart too.
Yeah, I feel like I read or heard that somewhere that they did do that. How somehow tiered the canals and stuff so that the water was constantly, they just used the force of the water to keep it moving, basically.
Right. Yeah, I know that it's not like a new technology, really. It's just kind of resurfacing sort of technology, right?
Yeah.
Which is really
some
that sort of passive technology like that doesn't require electricity.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to make too. It's just some PVC and like a couple valve bulbs.
You got some images or something there to
I actually don't have anything prepared.
No?
I should.
Okay.
I'll
no,
put
that's
a
fine.
link. How about I'll put a link in the video description to a video where it's a guy. It's called his channel is Land to House, and he designs a couple different types. And he does a really great descriptions on how they work. These very simple ones. I mean, you just make them with PVC, and then you can either use for the pressure chamber. You need something to kind of pushes back on the pressure that's building. So two solutions that I had seen were tennis balls, just putting a couple tennis balls into it, or like taking a bicycle inner tubing and kind of putting it up in there. It's like you use like a 3-inch piece of PVC for the pressure vessel. You just cap the top.
I was going to say that the main run is going to be smaller, like what, 1.75 inches. I don't know what the piping sizes are, but so then the pressure chamber enlarges to like a 3-inch. So your piece that's going to push back against the pressure, that's what you're talking about, putting in that 3-inch in diameter pipe, something that will work inside of there.
Yeah, it allows
interesting.
Push that pressure to release that pressure and push it, to the water again, so that the water then, can be moved. So you would inflate that tube after you kind of put it in that 3-inch PVC, and then you would cap the PVC and then put an adapter couple on the bottom, and that goes into like a T, a PVC T, and then the inline portion of the T goes to a discharge valve on one side and a ball valve on the other side, and then another it's an inline valve, a spring valve that you got to put into that, and those are all kind of coupled together with little the PVC nipple joiners, I think is what they're called, or something like that.
Okay.
Or something like that. And
I'm pretty terrible with plumbing, but
but the basic idea then is that you have a water source that's elevated, and it comes flowing down through this discharge valve thing. And what the discharge valve has is it allows water to flow out of it. And once the water's flowing out of it, it closes, that force of the water closes a valve. And it shuts real hard. It goes click, and it shuts. And then that opens up the spring valve that's in line with the T. And so now that the water is not going out the discharge, it pushes into the T, and there's like a little bit of a gap then of air that builds up, and that pressure that air that slips into the system slips up into that pressure vessel then. So you're effect of like turning on and off the water a little bit, and it creates like little air gaps, pockets in the stream that then get fed up into the pressure thing, and you build up pressure in this pressure vessel, and then you can basically move. They say that the ratio is for every 1 foot of drop in water, you can get 10 feet of vertical out the other side.
Wait, I don't quite follow that. So
if
for
if I had a pond that was like 10 feet above, and I'm drawing it, I have my pipe is like is at the bottom of the pond, and then I have maybe a 50-foot tubing that comes down to the pump. So the pump is 10 feet vertical distance from the pond. And pump now the water from out the other side of the pump. I could pump it 10 times 10, so I could pump it 100 feet.
100 feet. Wow, no kidding. Wow, that's interesting.
So for like a farm, you can imagine now that's 100 feet. You could pump that probably laterally, thousands of feet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Depending on how your farm is.
Yeah, horizontally. Yeah, if you're just keeping it level, or even just going up a little bit here and there. Wow, that is fascinating. Yeah, dude. Yeah, your water source has to be in the right place. No doubt about that, but that's interesting.
Something else I was thinking then is using that in combination with, say, a water tank. That, those large square, like kind of water tanks that are like in cages sometimes, or even just like a big rain barrel, right? Like a massive rain barrel. And if you had that elevated, the drop in the rain barrel might be 4 feet. That means you could pump 40 feet vertically then from just a drop in.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and for that matter too, I was thinking, if you have like a water source nearby or underground that you can't utilize, you could maybe even set up a windmill pump to actually pump some of your water into a reservoir like that, some sort of tank somewhere. Isn't that how the Amish, they do a lot of their water with windmills still?
I think I've definitely, I think in our hometown area, there's a few windmill pumps, to bring up well water.
I see them all over the place. At the Amish farms, I mean, you see them. They're running and they're pumping.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff like that out there. You just got to go out and find it. There's one guy that Owen talks about relatively frequently. His name's Benjamin Balderson. I think is his name. Have you heard of him at all? This guy is like super off the grid, um, just really, really crazy. And he apparently has figured out a way to make, well, and I know that you can do this. I don't know how to do it. I'm terrible with this stuff, but I've heard of ways to modify engines and stuff. He can make engines run on vegetable oil.
Oh, I've
So
heard some other people doing stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, and he grows his own food and stuff. So he makes his own vegetable oil and he runs equipment with
Generator.
that.
Huh.
Yeah. So you know,
Dude,
all kinds of stuff like that out there.
the cool thing would be doing that and then charging up like little batteries for electric powered power tools, because
Mm.
power tools are so much lighter and less, like, they don't vibrate as much as as like gas powered ones. There's um so much easier to kind of handle some of those electric handheld power tools.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are. I still prefer gas.
Yeah,
That's just that's just
just for
me, I
the
guess.
power output.
Um, yeah, yeah. Although Dad, who is as big a proponent of gas as anybody, his trimmer these days is an electric trimmer.
I believe,
Did
yeah.
Yeah, no, I know it is. It's a Makita. It's a like an industrial. But he said it came with two batteries and he can do their property with it,
Wow.
which impresses me. Um, I don't know. I like my trimmer. It's still running, so I'm not interested in running out and spending the money on it. But they're so expensive too. That's the other thing. The battery powered ones are so expensive. Like that trimmer costs like 2 to 3 times what I paid for my trimmer.
Yeah.
So, and mine comes with all kinds of I can get all kinds of attachments for it, that
Right. Yeah.
Husqvarna.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
So, and I use them all. I have the pole saw. I have a little garden a little garden tiller
Oh yeah.
attachment for it. And then I have the traditional trimmer head. So I use all of them for sure.
Very
Um, yeah,
nice.
but
Here,
that's
I
interesting.
got one last kind of question for you. Suggestion that I need from you. So
Sure.
we are we would like to get closer to the farm, where we're working, so that we don't have to commute as far. And for a little while we were considering campers, and we still are, like a camper, and setting it up, and um, but campers are the camper market here in Maine is just insane. I mean, they're like, the last one that I tried to get a hold of, I contacted them 3 hours after it was posted, and they replied and they said, and I asked them when's the most convenient time that I can come whenever is convenient for you, and they said, well, why don't you come Saturday morning? And I was like, okay, well, what time? Like, because, and what's your method of selling? Are you just doing first person to put cash in hand, or is it the first person to contact you? And they replied back, I already sold it this morning. So,
Good grief.
and that's
Wow.
been our experience for like the last 2 months almost.
Wow.
Like, people are like, I'll reply, less than 24 hours after it's been posted, and it's either already been sold or been spoken for. Some people actually honor like whoever first contacted. So, I can understand that, but um, yeah. So anyway, other suggestions or ideas for kind of a more maybe mobile living situation, but I don't know. We've been looking at yurts. We've been looking at geodesic domes, trailer houses, and all sorts of other ideas too.
Yeah. Um. Hmm. One of those. like one of those little camper top bed, like one of those little ones that fits in the bed of a truck.
Yeah.
Like one of those, maybe.
What are those?
I don't know what they call them.
For sleeper, truck, bed sleeper or something.
Sleeper bed.
Yeah.
Bed. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Something portable.
And with like, with all the raw material prices being so ridiculous right now, I'm like, there's no chance that I'm gonna try to build something small even, because it'll just be way overpriced at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if anyone else has suggestions out there, throw them in the comments.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's interesting. There's this guy that I follow on Twitter that has he's been tweeting lately about how he would love to live a nomadic life, and he was tweeting out some old images like drawings and stuff of different Indian structures and things like that. But I don't know where you get the materials to build something like that.
Yeah.
So
the yurts are interesting. There's yurt companies where they bring them straight out of Mongolia.
Oh yeah.
And you can rent a Mongolian yurt for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
And
they've got like insulation packages and all kinds of things. They're pretty cool looking actually too, because they look like a normal yurt that you would think of that have like the sort of insulation around them, the little clear dome top. But they have like they're a lot more ornately made too. Like they have these really nice doors and everything. And some of the other features on the inside are a little unique also.
So when you say you rent them, I mean, they bring them to you?
I believe so. They'll ship them to. I think you ship them to like a local hardware store. And you can like break them down there and move them from there. The ones that you rent, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into those ones as much. But yeah, there's also like similar to the renting yurts. There's like this thing called tenter, which is just basically like a canvas cabin tent. And similarly, they will actually, I think that they pay for everything. They'll bring it to you, and I think you just have to build like the pad, like a little wooden pad for it. But it's like already decked out with everything, like a cook stove and a little outdoor fireplace and everything. And then you can either pay them to rent it, or it's like actually like through their website you can like Airbnb it, kind of, you know what I mean, like have like you manage it and like have other people stay it for you.
Yeah.
But it goes to their website, the booking and everything too. It's kind of a cool little thing if you've got like 5 acres somewhere and you're like, hey, want to make a little money from it, you can.
Yeah.
It's just a small initial investment, and then they're the ones kind of investing, mostly in the tent and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
Little wood stove.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's not something that I've ever really looked into. I guess the only other thing that I would think is, again, the price of any of this stuff is always so much. But like a bug out van, like or whatever.
Yeah, what is that? What they're called? Like
is that what they're called? I'm not sure.
Yeah, like a travel van or something.
Yeah, like one of those modified things. Like who is that? Tom Green. You remember Tom Green?
I think, isn't he an actor?
He was he had that MTV show, the Tom Green Show. It was just called the Tom Green
Show. If I recall him.
He was like, I don't know if he was one of the original close to one of the original like kind of real life out on the street pranking people and recording it and getting a show out of it, because he did a lot of that for his show, for the Tom Green show. He's an interesting guy. He was an actor too. He was in some movies. What was the one movie? Freddy Got Fingered, I think he was one that he was in.
I think that's what I'm thinking of him in, or something.
He was in
movie or something.
Was he in Road Trip? Did you ever see the movie Road Trip? Was that the one that he was in? I don't know. He was in a couple. But anyway, he's been living out of a van for like a month or so now. He has a couple dogs, and he lives in Los Angeles, I think. He's Canadian by birth, but I think he lives in Los Angeles now. Okay. And I don't know if he sold his house in LA or not, but he was just like, I'm tired of being stuck in the house. This was a couple months after, the invasion of the China virus.
And he just had to get a van, huh?
So he got himself a van, and he got it all decked out. It's got the solar panels on the roof and stuff, He's got a couple big batteries in it, and he had it totally customized, to where he actually has, like, he's doing a podcast. So he has a section in the van where, like, these drawers pull out and there's all this recording equipment, and away he goes. And it's interesting. So I mean, I guess that would be an option. I know our one grandfather has been, I don't know that he took part in modifying it, but took a modified bus trip, like in Canada, I think, where they modified like a school bus. No, one of our grandfathers. No, one of our grandfathers. Yeah.
Do you remember one of our uncles modified?
Oh yeah. A van. That was a van.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Was a van. That was a van.
Yeah. He still has that one.
Yeah. With the lift and all. That thing.
Yeah.
Cool too.
Yeah. Or maybe they have an RV now. Actually, I think they have an RV now. I don't think they have the van anymore. But anyway, yeah, like a modified bus. Maybe you could modify a bus or find one that's
a schoolie, I think is what they call those. Schoolies.
Schoolies?
A schoolie is like a bus that they've gutted and then converted into.
A schoolie. That's interesting. I didn't know that there was a term for them. Yeah. That's interesting. That's funny. That's funny.
I like the idea of those yurts. You got the dome, the clear dome. You look up at the stars at night,
That's cool.
Stars, sleep under the moon, right?
Yeah, indeed. That's way cool. Speaking of the moon, I wanted to talk about the moon for just a little bit. And I know we have like 15 minutes, but I don't know if this will fill the 15 or not. But so I'm at my friend's house the other evening, playing some music. And we step outside for a few minutes. It's after dark. And two of my friends there, and my one friend looks up and he goes, "What's in front of the moon?" And we all kind of look up, and it's just the crescent moon. And I'm kind of looking at it, and I get what he's getting at. But my other buddy is just like, "What are you talking about?" And I go, "I think that's us. We're in front of the moon." And he was like, "Well, yeah," or whatever. And but the thing about it was the part that's us, because that's what makes the moon phases, right? Is the position of the Earth, the sun, and the moon. Yeah. And the Earth is casting a shadow on the moon because the moon reflects the sun, right? That's the idea. So the shadow on the moon was like translucent. Like it was almost opaque. Is that the term I'm looking for? Where you could like see through it.
Yeah. It's slightly transparent.
Yeah. Why is that? If that is a shadow, Why is it slightly transparent? So go ahead.
I was just saying, I could give you the scientific answer.
Please.
I thought maybe the other friend gave that answer now.
He said that it was the light from the reflecting part, like illuminating the shadow a little bit. Which, when I first heard it, I was like, okay. But then I'm like, shadows are shadows are shadows. Like, you know what I mean? If you're outside on a sunny day and there's shadows from a tree, those shadows are going to be dark, even though the grass around that shadow is going to be bright by the sun.
Yeah.
You know, because where the light's blocked, and it's being put on a flat thing, so it's not like it can spread out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would assume on the moon, if the moon is a round object, that the sun hitting it, that light would not be able to impact the shadow that we should be casting on it. Is that the scientific explanation?
The scientific explanation is the idea of, I mean, I guess I don't know why they have two different types of shadows, but there is two shadows to Earth's shadow. There's the penumbra and the numbra shadow of the, and it's why they will say that what is it? There's certain eclipses where you get a penumbra eclipse or a full Now I'm sounding like an idiot because I'm losing track of where I'm at.
Well, you're sounding like an idiot because this sounds pretty stupid. But go on.
So the idea is essentially that if the Earth is here and the sun is here and and light is coming this way, that there's sort of a concentrated cone that stems from the edges, of the Earth, and sort of form like a cone that is like a concentrated shadow that is the darker shadow. And then there is a more sort of, shadow that extends beyond that cone that's a little more, that the shadow sort of diffuses out from that then essentially. The denser shadow. And that's, so the umbra, I believe, is like the darker shadow. And then the penumbra is the shadow portion that's like extends from beyond that. I don't remember why there is the two, what the scientific explanation is for the two, though. I can't recall that.
Yeah. I'd be really curious to find some of that out. Because to me, a shadow is a shadow is a shadow. And the other thing is, why could we not test what they're saying, on a couple of balls or something to see what happens? Because to me, a shadow is a shadow is a shadow. I just don't see how it's any different.
Right. Well,
why there's got to be these special rules about this one particular shadow all of a sudden.
What's interesting is that when I was thinking about that a little bit, when you think of the shadow from trees, for instance, as you were saying, in the forest, right? When you look at right now with the snow, in my area at least, there's still snow on the ground in the forests, and when you have the shadows from the tree, it's just solid dark stripes.
So precise that what's really cool about stuff like that is that if you have a place where it's consistent, or if you get to a place in a particular time of the day where there's been light hitting a certain area, but it hasn't moved a whole lot yet, you can see where the sun has melted.
Yeah.
Particular spots, but not the spots that are shaded.
For instance, like frost, right?
Exactly. So here's another thing I'm going to toss out.
I want to mention this: that the time when there are two shadows, and or kind of that effect of a lighter shadow and then a darker shadow that's sort of in the middle of the two light
Hmm.
shadows
Okay.
is when there's two light sources, right? When you are like walking at night on a sidewalk underneath street lights and there's
Mm.
lights, you do sort of have that multiple shadow with union
Ah.
of of the two shadows. So I don't know what that means, but I just thought of that.
Well, what's interesting is that there are some in some circles that think that there are actually two suns.
I have
There are people that believe that they have evidence of two suns. So that's interesting. Uh,
hmm,
that's interesting. But what I was going to say was, so I've kind of been thinking about that all week because the moon kind of trips me out anyway. I I don't know. There's just something about it. Well, I
it's
think the
so
thing that
big.
trips, it's so big, and I think the other thing is that everybody always grows up so certain of what the moon is, or not even what it is, but just that somebody else knows what it is more. I think is what it actually is.
Mm,
You don't really contemplate it at all. Um, so I've been thinking about this thing all week, and then I'm outside this afternoon doing something, and I look up in the sky, and there in the middle of the sky, clear, crystal blue sky, middle of the day, there's the beautiful sun, and not too far away from it
mm.
is the moon. And is the moon full? Because obviously I am not between the sun and the moon. No, it's not. It's a crescent. So what the hell is making the crescent on the damn moon in the middle of the effing day? Somebody make it
You're
make
a
sense
really good
to me.
point because you're looking at both the moon and the sun. So
They're right there. Like I am here, the sun's here, the moon's here. Somebody
how
make
do
it
we
make
even
sense.
see the moon? Because isn't the moon supposed to be reflecting the light from the? How's it reflecting if the light that the moon would be hitting that the light from the sun that would be hitting the moon would be on the dark side of the moon that we can't see? Oh,
Make it
Jeremy.
make it
Oh,
make
why you
sense.
gotta do this to me? Now I gotta be thinking about this all week too.
Make it make sense. You're going to be looking in the sky. It's going to be beautiful next week. Look up in the sky in the middle of the day, and you will see the moon, and you will see it in its phase. You know,
It's what's funny is that I keep track of the moon all the time, but I never had put that together. That's so weird. That's such a reality. What is possibly? What
it,
can we think of anything? What could be possibly? Actually, let's maybe I'll see what Google says.
putting what could be making the crescent. See, I actually looked it up today, and every I mean, I didn't find like any super duper official site per se, but I checked like two or three different sites that came up, and they all said that it's due to the positional, where the sun and the earth and the moon are in relation to each other. And I'm like, I don't think I can buy that because clearly the moon is in it. Like it just doesn't make sense. And even the rotation doesn't make sense with the moon being out in the middle of the
Well,
day, I think.
here's a great question: that if the moon and the sun, man, yeah, boy, I have no answer for that.
I don't know what to make of it. I'm not trying to tell people that anything is anything. I'm just trying to tell people that it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not a dullard. I understand how reflections and shadows and stuff like that generally basically work. Um, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't understand it. And I wish somebody could make it make sense for me because I have a hard time buying into what I'm being told right now. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
That is a
Does not make sense.
because the moon and the sun are like basically in a line for like a large part of the time. They go across the sky together.
Yeah.
They go across
Yeah.
again. But meanwhile, the moon is slowly tracking further and further away, and the shadow grows a little bit more and more. But it still is like, at the moment, it's between you and the sun.
Yeah.
So how do you cast how does the Earth cast a shadow on something that's between the light source and it? Try that at home, guys. Get a
Yeah.
turn off all the lights in your
So,
house. Turn
what?
on a light, and then try and cast a shadow on your object on the other side.
Well, so here's something that's really interesting. Uh, deep in the rabbit hole, DITRH. We've talked about him before, Mr. David Weiss, Mr. Flat Earther. Um, he does this really fascinating experiment because he will tell you that the sun actually does not disappear when it sets.
Mm.
That if you really look at it, that the sun is really just kind of just below the horizon enough that it's really not lighting up your sky anymore. I can't remember how he explains it, but basically that it kind of curves out as opposed to going down, over the horizon. And he has videos and stuff to back his stuff up. And then he does this experiment because he says, that doesn't make sense based on the model that we're told that we're living in and everything.
Yeah.
But he has this experiment where he has like a table or something, and he takes a glass dome and he puts the glass dome over the table, and then he takes a pen light, and if he goes around the glass dome with the pen light, you can see the reflection. It hits the dome of the light, and then you can watch the reflection of the pen light track on the dome, and it goes down and kind of like goes over and then back up. Instead of going down, it kind of goes over and then back up. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. So I don't know. Again, I don't say anything.
We're just talking. We don't know.
Yeah.
Saying we know for sure anything.
It's just fun to chat about it, and it doesn't make sense to me. If somebody can make it make sense, shoot me some links, shoot me some videos, something. I mean, this is basic stuff we're taught in school, and thinking about it again now. When you're in school, like for me anyway, and I would imagine this is the way it is for a lot of people, I just really didn't care much about trying to memorize that crap that they were shoving down my throat at that time of my life.
Yeah.
So I just did it, and I got passing grades. And now I'm looking back on some of this stuff, and I'm like, hold up, time out. What? Time out. I wasn't paying attention before. Now that I am, it doesn't kind of make sense to me. What are you talking about? Teach. I got a question. I got a question, Teach. So yeah, if you have information, let me know. And if you can explain it to me, let me know. And otherwise, be curious about it and look up there and wonder for yourself and come up with some ideas. Shoot me some of your ideas if you got some other ideas. I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, we're very open. I'd like to ask that people out there that are like engineers and that work in the sciences, think about like the equations and the formulas. Think about the values that you're actually using to make calculations, and do they actually involve any sort of physical reality of us being, this spinning ball sphere. I mean, I'll just say personally, I've taken a lot of courses and done a lot of experiments in physics and different things like that. And, there are certain things that obviously we can experience very easily in our physical world, like gravity. You throw something, it drops, right? But
gravity.
None of the, but even like in terms of like making calculations for flight and speed and all that sort of stuff, that when I did experiments with physics and gravity, you don't ever use some of these other concepts that are pushed in our, lives, as far as like this spinning sphere, again,
And
and engineers building airplanes and things like that. Like, is that
but I
brought taken into account, really?
see. I guess that
No.
what the science says is you don't really have to take some of this into account because that magic, and it is magic, dark matter, dark energy, right? Literally made up. Nobody knows what it is, where it is. The
Yeah,
dark matter,
invisible, unknown, made up matter.
yeah, that holds us, in place in this 1,000 mile an hour rotation that we're doing, while we're hurtling through an infinite vacuum. I, I don't know. I
Sounds a
don't
little
know.
crazy to me. That sounds
I
crazy to me.
well, I was gonna say, again, it goes back to, we talked about this before, where when you talk about something like that, dude, just because 95% of the 3 billion people on this planet or whatever believe that doesn't mean that it sounds any less crazy than somebody thinking that we're in a giant puddle on a huge landmass that we
Yeah,
don't know about. There's
yeah,
nothing any more crazy about that. Like, for real. I
yeah.
mean, uh,
The
and I guess,
reality is already crazy enough. Any of
yeah, I guess people would say, well, a lot of smart people have done a lot of work to prove that it's this and that and the other thing. And I guess, I mean, it's kind of hard to refute that type of stuff,
hey, go back 3,000 years. They thought things completely different than they did,
1,000 years ago.
and 1,000 years
Yeah,
ago. It's
yeah, that's true.
the smartest people at that time, when the Romans had their, you know, irrigation and indoor plumbing in their stone, palaces. They thought they were the smartest in the world and that they had everything figured out.
That's true.
I think it's all relative. Every population thinks that they're the best of the best that ever was, and they know all.
That's true. That's true. And since we do such a, well, we're led to believe we do such a great job of record keeping for the last, however many years, centuries, decades, whatever, that gives us a little more ego and a little more confidence to say, oh, well, look at all of this. Um, I don't know if that was as prevalent or as readily available in times past. So
They had
I
the
don't know.
Library of Alexandria and different things like
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's
Yeah, I
true.
think with like all the Mayan hieroglyphs and Egyptian hieroglyphs too. It's an interesting that's something maybe we could talk about sometime is the language again and like pictographic language.
Mhm.
That type
Yeah,
of written communication is a very interesting type of.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, I think that's about it for me this evening.
Yeah,
It was a good chat, and look forward to another one next week. Hit the subscribe, like. We're still working on stuff, obviously, always. If you want to help us work on stuff, uh, by all means, let us know. We can't pay anything except lip service. Um, if by some chance, some way, somehow this ever does become lucrative, we'll pay you. But we're really not in this for the money. Or at least I'm not. I don't think Jordan is either. I think we're just kind of having some fun, shooting the shit, and trying to share some information that people might find interesting or want to participate in. But
got it.
tell your friends. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again next week. And until then, Jordan, I love you. Have a good week, and we will be in touch.